What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. So excited about this video. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
So what does poverty look like in Germany? Well, in this context, it doesn't mean that millions of people in Germany are at risk of starving or freezing to death. Instead, it refers to relative poverty, which is measured by the average living conditions of the society in question. In 2021, Germany was ranked the 20th richest country in the world measured by GDP per capita. This means that if you add up the value of all of the goods and commodities produced in a country and divide that figure by the number of its inhabitants, you get $50,700 per person per year in Germany on average. By comparison, that number is $136,700 in Luxembourg, the world's richest country. And although there are a number of different measurement tools that somebody could use to gauge the poverty in the country, here in Germany, the Status, or the Federal Statistic Office, measures something called the at-risk of poverty rate. According to a press release from May of 2023, around 12 million people were at risk of poverty, or around 14.4% of the population. Breaking this down by state, the at-risk of poverty rate in 2022 was the highest in Bremen at 28.4%, followed by North Rhine-Westphalia at 19.5% and Saxony-Anhalt at 19.3%. But countrywide, 6.1% of the population, or 5.1 million people in Germany, were affected by significant material and social deprivation in 2022. To put this within a broader European perspective, Germany is definitely not the worst off, but it isn't the best either. And those who fit into that at-risk of poverty category, I think might surprise you. As inflation skyrockets in Germany, more and more people will find themselves unable to make ends meet without assistance. It's becoming increasingly difficult for many to afford bread, milk, fruit, and vegetables, which are over 12% more expensive than they were just 2 years ago. Plus, the number of people who cannot live on their current income despite having a full-time job is also increasing, and that's despite the recent increase in the minimum wage. At 12 euros per hour, a single person with no children who works 40 hours a week would receive a net income of around 1,480 euros per month. Although this is nominally above the poverty line, that excess has been eaten up by inflation. Students are also greatly affected by the situation, especially recipients of federal funding. These students receive a maximum of 934 euros a month, which includes money for housing and health insurance. This amount puts students well below the poverty line. And last but not least, poverty is also on the rise.
Oh, child. I remember being a broke college student.
Yeah.
You know, until I had to not be one, you know. Y'all get a monthly stipend. We just get that one little disbursement per semester or two.
Yeah.
Depending on your situation. It's interesting. I wonder how exactly did the pandemic have a play on that? You know, I understand people, I actually don't understand, like, how their job market was. Like, did they have the same problems that we face here, or were their jobs secured? Yeah.
And not just that, how impacted is it really? Like, how impactful is it really on y'all? Like, how much of it do you really notice it's taking? Like, are you having to go on your savings for certain situations? Or is it like, yeah, everything's kind of cut down to a minimum to where we can still get by and not have to deal with the consequences of inflation? Because I know that a lot of people who deals with inflation on a regular basis are like saying, you know what, I can't pay for the amount of groceries I usually would for because of how much everything is costing now.
Right. And also, is Germany one of the places where they have universal, not really health insurance, but they have all of the like services that they automatically have? I don't know. Let us know about that.
Rise amongst the elderly in Germany. After decades of work, their pension is often not enough to cover their monthly expenses. Women in particular are feeling this strain, as they are more likely to have worked part-time and have been paid less. According to a new study from the Bertelsmann Foundation, old age poverty is expected to affect 20% of Germans by 2036. But we'll talk more about Germany's aging population a little bit later in this video. But you know, the poverty rate is actually only one part of this equation, and the general consensus is that it really does feel like wealth is being concentrated into the hands of fewer and fewer people. And the German economy isn't growing fast enough to benefit everyone. So I think it's best that we now take a look at what many economists are saying is often the underappreciated reason behind a lot of the public outrage: an ever-increasing and grossly unequal distribution of wealth. According to a Bundesbank survey in 2021, the top 10% of households have at least 725,000 euros of net assets and control more than half the country's wealth, while the bottom 40% of households have at most 44,000 euros of net assets. But of course, these are the extremes of the wealth distribution, and if we're really trying to understand what the public outrage is about wealth inequalities in Germany, well, we need to look in the middle and see how these things are affecting the middle class. In Germany, the median household income reported just 107,000 euros of net assets. To put that into perspective, the median German household has only a little more net wealth than the median Greek household. A country, by the way, with triple the unemployment rate and an average income that's 40% of Germany's. Of course, there is the argument that maybe Germans just don't simply need as much money to live a comfortable and fulfilling life. After all, childcare is free in some German states.
That was one of the
So
things.
is public tuition at universities. And lately, labor unions have won pay hikes, while savers have entered higher interest on bank deposits. Farmers, too, have earned higher profits, even despite the protests. However, fewer than half of the households own a home, and hence haven't benefited from soaring property prices. The median wealth of German tenant households is just 16,000 euros, according to the Bundesbank. So, of course, when you add inflation on top of all of this, it's completely reasonable to see why many Germans just simply don't feel like they have enough to make ends meet. Of the 2,059 respondents to a survey conducted by YouGov, a British marketing research institute, on behalf of Postbank, 17.2% admitted that they can hardly afford their living costs due to high inflation. The survey indicated that a lot more people feel the pressure of rising food and energy prices.
Okay, so I don't know. I remember reacting to a lot of Germany videos about like the healthcare, the grocery stores, how everything is much cheaper there. Like places like Aldi. Even with that, y'all still feel that the groceries are high? Like, I understand inflation hit us all, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just seeing a different side of it, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, the fact that everyone is getting impacted by it, I mean, it's kind of like unavoidable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just think that I don't want to tell anybody how to live their life, but at some point it's like there's just some things in our houses that we really don't even use.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For all of my people who have dishwashers in their homes,
Oh, okay.
those joints is ready to go build up for free.
Okay. Just turn off the breaker.
Yeah, you don't use it. Like, if you use it, cool. Well, not. It's not a problem. If you don't, also not a problem. But when it's just sitting there collecting revenue out of your pockets, then you start to think about how often do you use these type of things. Like cable. If you're never home, but you got a cable bill that you got to, pay every month, it's like, how often do you want to continuously pay on these
Cut it
things?
off.
Like, all these apps that you got on your TV to watch movies, Paramount, Hulu, Netflix, but you're not around to watch it for the majority.
Mm-hmm.
At what point does it become a problem?
Right, right.
So I'm just
Let
thinking out
us
loud.
know. Like, I would love to know, like, an average family, like, how are they living now? Like, what are their worries? I want to know that.
Yeah.
30% of the respondents said they relied on their savings to get by. Only 39% said their income was
have
enough to cover the
savings, though.
additional
Yeah.
costs of living as a result of the price hikes. And these findings corroborate a slew of reports, news articles, and media attention which underscore the difficulty of living and working in Germany. But is it that way for everyone? Now, there is a way that somebody could take a look at this same set of data and draw maybe a little bit of a different conclusion. With rising income inequality dominating the headlines in Germany, the question looms: are Germans really poor, or does Germany just simply have more rich, friendly policies and tax schemes that effectively just concentrate wealth into the hands of a few. After all, more than 9,000
Exactly
Germans
what
have a net worth of at least $50 million, which is the world's third highest concentration of super wealthy people. And yeah, you would probably have to have a pretty high income to be able to afford the majority of the lineup offered by Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, or BMW. But to be fair, rich is a relative term. Does rich mean having 135 million euros in assets, including a 10-bedroom villa in
Oh,
Hamburg's
No, no,
Blankenese
10
district,
now it's
plus a
defined
spacious
by the
holiday home
person.
in Mallorca, and a yacht like music magnate
You don't need that
Dieter
either.
Bohlen?
Man.
Or does it mean having a small independent business valued at $1 million that can pay the salary of one or
See,
two other
I like
employees, support a mortgage on a house, and
I
a
like
yearly
that.
family ski vacation?
I
Well,
like it a
perhaps
lot.
then maybe the best definition of who is rich in Germany is just simply who benefits the most from the existing tax structures. The OECD and
So I
leading
was
German
curious now, this is kind of like a little off the topic, but what does rich look like to you guys really though? Because you know, for social media and TV, we see rich lifestyles
right,
on a
right.
regular basis, and they make it mad plain in sight. But for you all, what is a rich lifestyle look like for y'all when it comes to social media, TV, or just riding around in your your neighborhoods or whatnot? What does that look like?
Yeah, for me, rich is just not having any worries.
Mm.
You know, being able to do what I want to do when I want to do.
Yeah,
Comfortable.
yeah. I feel like rich is like well, I feel like rich can be something that is tangible but not yet tangible at the same time. Something that you can find deep within yourself that is like a treasure that just can supply all your needs in a way that something else cannot. Or it can also mean being able to be in places and time, be in places and locations that you choose to be in whenever you please.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with them being a society who work to live.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, like,
Having all
How
that
is
off
that?
time.
yeah, especially coming from for us, we work, we live to work. Yeah, we
Yeah, we
live
gotta
to
get
work.
that phrase correct.
Right. Well, not us really, but
You got that time
yeah,
to do it as they please.
yeah.
Okay.
They're not stressed
Yeah.
about work.
Just got to throw your hands up. Yeah. They good.
Economists have long criticized the country's tax system because the burden is skewed too much towards wages, while property and inheritance taxes are low. There are sweeping inheritance tax exemptions for business owners, for example, on the grounds that jobs and investment might otherwise be endangered. And yeah, I think there is an argument to be had that these rules are probably too cushy, especially when the upshot is taxes on large inheritances are often lower than a smaller bequest. But to be honest, when it comes to wealth, German people are often pegged as being poorer than citizens in poorer nations by studies compiled by international banks and international
Interesting.
finance
It is
institutions
interesting.
because of what might be just a flawed methodology in how they're examining wealth in the first place. And I think this is a caveat that I really need to mention at this part in the video. In many countries, the largest part
I'm
of
gonna rewind it, turn off the rest so y'all can get a full caveat. But we have did a few videos of people that moved to Germany, living abroad, having the time of their life, and their problems wasn't the ones that she's mentioning.
No.
This is our first time actually being able to hear an in-depth version of how being poor is compared to actual poor countries. That's
Right, right.
crazy. I didn't know that.
Right, but even here, like, our poor is different from another person's poor in another country.
But what is your definition of poor? Because I feel like poor is being without.
Mine is
Basically.
yeah, being without and not having enough to make your ends meet on your own
Right.
with the job that you
With the
have.
job, you can still be poor and still have a job.
Working 40 hours a week,
Right.
the maximum, and still not having enough to make ends meet.
Whew. I'd like to hear y'all definition of what poor is. Because though it's like a little, I guess you could say it's an uncomfortable topic, but at the same time, like you mentioned, people can still have a job, still have a car, bills can still be paid, but yet still struggling to like the core, you know?
Right.
Food still not being put in the fridge, lifestyle still at a minimum
Not able to do anything out of work.
at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
might be just a flawed methodology in how they're examining wealth in the first place. And I think this is a caveat that I really need to mention at this part in the video. In many countries, the largest part of provision for old age comes from investments in capital stocks. If there's a pay-as-you-go pension system, like Social Security in the United States or the state pension in the UK, it's merely a basic income to avoid old people becoming totally destitute. You cannot have a comfortable existence off of it, and you really have to invest in capital assets so that you actually have something to spend in your old age. But in contrast, here in Germany, the pension system actually pays out a decent amount if you've had a long working life. But the expectation of that pension is not reckoned as personal wealth in statistics compiled by banks. These entitlements cannot be sold or used as security for a loan, so they're really of no interest to financial institutions. So for example, if you are watching this video and you're a 50-something-year-old German, you and your employer, between the two of you, have now paid about 3.5 times your annual gross income as pension contributions. If that were counted as a capital asset, you'd be reckoned as moderately wealthy. But as this is a payment into a pay-as-you-go pension system, it's really not counted as a capital asset. Your pension will be merely an income when
Just
it
give
will
me
be
my
paid
money.
out. So under a capital stock-based pension system like a Roth IRA in the United States, you would be rich on paper. Under the German system, you're poor on paper, even with a comparable income in old age. Banks don't really like pay-as-you-go pension systems because they're too efficient.
See, that's why it's important to know your long-term goals, especially when you know on the channel a lot we always talk about moving abroad and things like that, and culture shocks and comparing and contrasting different countries and cultures, and that is something that I would be thinking about. Long-term goals, yes.
Right.
Now in our 30s, it may sound fun to move across the country, have our current finances stretch in a whole nother country, but the long-term goals,
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
They merely collect
Not
money
working
and pay it
forever.
out, leaving no opportunity for financial institutions to have people's capital to invest and get their cut. So when banks say, well, Germans are poor, they might just mean poor in a means of wealth accumulation that we can't also benefit from. And honestly, at the end of the day, after all of these discussions on what is wealth, how do we measure it, and who ultimately has it, it begs the question, should we be angry about the way things are distributed currently here in Germany? And I think my reply would honestly be, I think we should all be angry, whether you're German or not. Whether you live in North America or in Europe, the two regions I most frequently cover on this channel, we all share a lot in common when it comes to this topic because in some regards, the average family is equally as poor. Since 2008, nominal US GDP has outpaced that of the European Union to the point that the EU is now just 2/3 of the economy that the US is, rather than the prior near parity. US nominal GDP per capita is nearing Singapore's, while all of Europe, except for small rich states like Norway and Monaco, are significantly behind. But these aren't reasons for American superiority. Nor really is it grounds to say that Americans are somehow unfathomably more wealthier than Germans or other Europeans. Money, wealth, and value are three related but different things that are easy to confuse with each other. Money is what you have to use to exchange wealth. That is, goods or services from which you then derive some tangible or intangible value. The traditional view of wealth is that it's not just about having money, but also about having that money go somewhere, far enough to provide a certain amount of value from a certain amount of wealth.
Right.
There's arguably already such an updated modern-day definition, which we term quality of life, and ironically is something that Americans far more readily admit is superior in Europe. To say that the quality of life is higher in Europe because there's less work, less crime, less driving, better and healthier food, and better public services is just to list a bunch of ways that Europeans are collectively wealthier than Americans. But we frame this in a specific way to prevent this kind of wealth from being accounted. And quite frankly, when it comes to wealth in the monetary sense, unless you're in that top 10%, no matter where you live, you're probably getting the short end of the stick. Wealth buttresses financial security for families and is much more concentrated among the top tier of wealth holders, with households in the top 10% of wealth distribution in high-income countries owning more than half of all household wealth. In the United States, they own 79% of it. In Germany, 60%. So at a time of acute health and economic crisis, widening divisions are raising moral, social, economic, and political challenges. As Germany and other countries strive to rebuild their economies, governments have an opening to alleviate unfair economic disparities and improve access to opportunities. And maybe, perhaps, a healthy dose of anger and frustration will be enough to really get things moving and to get governments to change their current existing policies. But I would really love to hear your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. If you're a German watching this video, how do you feel about the current status of living in Germany, whether that's in an economic sense or in a quality of life sense? And how...
All right, y'all. We're going to stop it right there, man. Make sure you guys go check her channel out. Overall, like, what I truly believe is that everybody in the world should at least have some form of living style that is comfortable to them, period. Because we didn't actually be here. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, you also got to look at it from your own lens and shift your perspective that we can't really choose the obstacle that come in front of us half the times. Sometimes some things are just unavoidable, and you got to capitalize off of that and take the challenge as what it is. So if it does require you to learn a different style of saving, then you have to do that. Or if it does require you to pick up a second job, then you have to do that. That's why I feel like it's not okay just to maintain comfortability as long as possible, because that can be hurtful in the long run, you know?
Exactly. And I know I'm talking to so many different age groups, but we won't always be the ages that we are now, you know, so we got to make smart decisions, and we got to master the systems that we currently have.
Exactly.
Like here, you know, I think we're doing pretty well, you know, making investments for our future selves, because, baby, I'm not about to be doing this at 60 and 70. No,
Right.
I'm not.
It's crazy because here they say you have to, like, live to like 60 to retire.
Oh, yeah,
It's
to
like, why
retire.
you have to wait so long?
Because of the pension.
Exactly.
Yeah, but, you know, you got to look into the type of life insurance that you have. You got to, the investments, the stocks, all of these investments, you have to do it smart. You have to think of your future self, not just your current self, your future self. You're going to have to not take that trip right now. You're going to have to not go on that shopping spree, not, you know, do this or do that. Cut on, that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But
you're talking right, though.
Yeah, I feel like we're so used to our American system, and from what she was talking about with the banks and stuff like that, and the old people poverty, the elder poverty. I like the American system on that one. I like a lot of things when it comes to, you know, judging, comparing and contrasting different countries. Y'all, I'm tired at this point, okay? Comparing different countries, but when it comes to the money situation, America, I know we deal with a lot more things that we really shouldn't have to deal with here, but
yeah.
I don't like that one. But y'all let us know how y'all feel about it. All right?
Facts.
We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.